Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the Arabic of the Quran series. Today we'll be doing lesson number 14, Fragments, the concept of Idhaafah. So now let's begin. So we are done with the 4 properties of ism. We have finished learning about ism. Now if I give you any word in Arabic which is an ism, any ism in Arabic, then you will be able to tell me rafa, its status, and number, gender, and type. That's what we have done so far. Now we will start a new segment, okay? A new segment of Arabic, which is fragments. The way I like to think about it is like, imagine ism like a brick, and fragments are 2 bricks together. 2 bricks with cement together. That's what we'll study now. We have studied one brick. We have studied how it's made. We have studied about its properties. Now we will mix 2 bricks together and study how they mix with the cement and all that. And slowly it will become a wall. If we keep on adding bricks, it becomes a wall, right? That wall will know as sentences. And one day we will come to that. But right now we have to focus on joining the 2 words. Right now we will focus on joining the 2 words. So that's what fragments are. Fragments are basically some words bunched together. Okay, so it is more than a word because it is more than a word, and less than a sentence because a sentence means what? Think about it. A sentence conveys a complete thought, right? For example, if I tell this house, is that a sentence? No. But if I tell this house is beautiful, now you think about a sentence, right? So over here also we can see house. House is a word. This we have studied so far. If I ask you to tell the status, number, gender of house, you will be able to tell me, right? But if I come here and I tell house of Allah, just if I go somewhere and just tell house of Allah, I'm sure people will be like, what? House of Allah is what? What are you talking about? Because House of Allah is not a complete sentence. But if I say House of Allah is called Kaaba, now that's a sentence because it conveys something. It conveys a complete thought. That's what sentence is. It conveys a complete thought. So now we will focus on House of Allah because that's a fragment. House of Allah is a fragment. So how do we make House of Allah? That's what we will learn now. In Arabic, how is House of Allah made? Okay, so if I have to tell the same thing in Arabic, how will we tell it? That's what we're learning now. This is called fragment. So now you're clear with difference between word, fragment, and sentence. Hopefully you know the meaning of fragment by now. And one more thing I'll tell you. Before we learned 4 properties of ism, right? Now we will be learning 5 kinds of fragments. Yes, there are 5 kinds of fragments in Arabic, okay? Today we'll be focusing on one of them, and tomorrow, many other videos, we'll be focusing on other fragments, okay? So today we'll focus on one kind of fragment, and I just want you to focus on one kind. But note that there are 5 kinds of fragments, okay? So now let's move on to some examples. Now some examples of fragments. Before we learn about the first kind of fragments, I want you to have a general idea of how fragments look. So this is Day of Judgment. Again, it doesn't deliver a complete thought. It is just a thing. So Day of Judgment is just something that you know, but you'll be waiting for what more? My knowledge. Now you'll again be waiting. My knowledge is what? Child's book. Again, it's not a complete thought. Nice house. Nice house. This is a nice house. I want a nice house. What about nice house? Happy child. Again, you'll be asking, what is a happy child? So these are fragments. I hope you understood what these fragments are. Okay, these are fragments. They do not deliver the complete thought. They deliver partial thought. And now we will be understanding how these work in Arabic. The first kind of fragment that we will learn about has a lot to do with the word of. Okay, so first we will learn about the word of. Of is used in 3 kinds. In English, there are 3 kinds of of. The first one is the obvious one, where the of is written. Book of Allah, school of children. The of is written here very clearly. The next is possessive pronouns, like his book, books of his. Can you see? His books, books of his. Their house, house of theirs. Over here, one thing you have to pay attention is that this is coming before, and this is coming later. Even though it looks like this is coming first, this is actually coming last. This is why you need to pay special attention to possessive pronouns like his book or their or even our or hers. You know, all these words are very important. Next we come to apostrophe s. You know apostrophe s. We actually did this very long. If you remember, we did this in the jar, in the first one when we were talking about jar. Today you'll know why we will talk about jar again. Okay, so today we are going to talk about jar again, and you'll see how. So this is the apostrophe s. Allah's book. This will be flipped to book of Allah. Another way I can tell this is book of Allah, right? Children's school, school of children. That's the same thought, right? Children's school means the same as school of children. So in these two cases, you need to be very attentive, because this, you'll think this is before, but this is not before. This is actually after, and this is before. So pay attention in possessive pronouns and apostrophe s, and flip the words appropriately. Okay. So now we learn three kinds of of. The first one is obvious, the second one is pronoun, and the third is apostrophe. Now we will learn actually how this plays in Arabic. The concept of Idhaafah. Idhaafah is basically a fragment which uses of. A fragment which has of. That's why we paid a special attention to of in the previous slide. So Idhaafah is a fragment of. Okay. So when we have of, okay, there's two things. There's a word before of and there's a word after of. Imagine there's a of here, then there'll be two things. Like for example, book of Allah. There's a word before of, which is book, and there's a word after of, which is Allah. In Arabic, we have special names for the word before and word after of. So the word before of is called mudaf. What is it called? It's called mudaf. And the word after of is called mudaf ilay. Now, all you need to know about this is if it's before of, it's mudaf. If it's after of, it's mudaf ilay. Okay? That's all you need to know. You'll learn more about this later. Now, what we are going to do here is we are labeling each of this as mudaf or mudaf ilay. The mudaf will be yellow and the mudaf ilay will be blue. Okay, so whatever I do yellow is mudaf, and whatever I do blue is mudaf ilay. Okay, so now the first one, house. I mean your house. Your house. Remember, this is a possessive pronoun. I told you in English this is a possessive pronoun, so we have to flip this, which means it will become house of yours. House of yours. Think, house of yours. Which one is coming first? House. So we know what comes before of, right? House is coming before of. House of yours. House is coming before of. So this will become a mudaf, right? So this will become a mudaf. House is a mudaf, and your or yours is a mudaf ilay because it's coming after of. Clear? Now, night of power. Night of power. Okay, so first we go to night. Why is night mudaf? Why is night mudaf? Come on, you should know. Night is mudaf because it's coming before of. This over here, the of is written. It's obvious, so you know which one is before, which one is after. You don't need to flip anything. So night of power. Night is before of. Therefore, night is mudaf. Okay, and now what is power? Power is mudaf ilay because it's after of. You're getting clear? Mudaf is before of, mudaf ilay after of. Teacher's house. Again, apostrophe s. Be careful. Teacher's house. We need to flip the sentence. House of teacher. House of teacher. Now when we write house of teacher, what's coming first? House is coming first, which means house is before of, and then house of teachers. Teacher, which is mudaf ilay. Yes, house of teacher. Life's goal. Again, apostrophe s, which means this sentence has to be flipped. Goal of life. This is another way of telling life's goal. The another way of telling life's goal is goal of life. Now in goal of life, goal is the mudaf because it's coming before of, and life is mudaf ilay. Clear? Next, her reason. Her reason. This is a possessive pronoun. When it's possessive pronoun, you know very clearly what you have to do. Reason of hers. Whenever you do reason of hers, reason comes first. So reason is before of. Therefore, reason is mudaf. Now, her of hers, right? So her is mudaf ilay. Next. Now let's move on to the next slide. His watch. His watch. Come on, guys. You know this. His watch. First of all, flip it. I'm not gonna tell you what it is. You should know this, but flip it and it'll become watch of his. Now, which one is mudaf and which one is mudaf ilayh? You should know it very clearly. Watch of his. Mudaf is before of and mudaf ilayh is the word after of. Next, Abdullah's class. Abdullah's class. This sentence has a not sentence, it's a fragment. Remember, we are only talking about fragments. This fragment has apostrophe s, which means it has to be flipped. Class of Abdullah. Okay, class of Abdullah, and that will make class mudaf and Abdullah mudaf ilayh. Be very clear with the Arabic terms. I need you to memorize these two Arabic terms. They are just two, mudaf and mudaf ilayh. You should know what mudaf is and you should know what mudaf ilayh is. Okay. Next, city of peace. City of peace. I'm not gonna tell you this one. This is so obvious. You should already know which one is what. I'm really not telling you. Think yourself. Next, our life. Our life. Life of ours, because our is what? Possessive pronoun. What are possessive pronouns? Recall it. His, her, our, all these are possessive pronouns, right? Your, mine, all these are possessive pronouns. My. So these possessive pronouns, the sentence has to be flipped. So this will become mudaf ilayh. Our is mudaf ilayh because it's life of ours, right? Life of ours. Next, mudaf is obviously life. And what is mudaf? I'm repeating again so I remember. Mudaf is the word before of. When you flip the sentence, it becomes when you flip the fragment, it becomes life of ours. Life of ours. So life is before of, right? Of ours. Life is before of, and then our is after of. His pain. His pain. Again, it's a pronoun sentence, so you will change it. So his pain. This becomes pain becomes mudaf, and his becomes mudaf ilayh. So till now what we learned two new terms, mudaf and mudaf ilayh, and you understood how to do that in English. Now we will learn how to do the same thing in Arabic, how to label the words in Arabic. Okay, that's what we will learn. So we understood what Idhaafah means. We understood that Idhaafah is all about the word of, and it will be dealing with a fragment which is all about of. That's what we understood about Idhaafah. But the thing is, in Arabic, the word of does not exist. Which means, let me tell that, the word of does not exist in Arabic. So how does Idhaafah come in Arabic? In Arabic, the thing will happen is, we will look at some clues. We'll look at some clues for the mudaf and the mudaf ilayh, and if the mudaf and the mudaf ilayh satisfies those clues, then we will tell that this word is a mudaf and this word is a mudaf ilayh, and that there will be an off in between. So for example, I will not tell you any of the clues right now. Right now I'll just want to give you an example. Book of Allah, right? You just know Book of Allah. So book is mudaf and Allah is mudaf ilayh here. But if we convert that into Arabic, it will be Kitabullahi. And why is it Kitabullahi? Why it can't be Kitaballahi or Kitabillaha? We'll see. We'll see why it can't be Kitaballaha or Kitabillaha. Okay? Let's just see. The first one is mudaf. So the clues that a word has to satisfy in order for it to be a mudaf, the rule that a word has to satisfy in order to be a mudaf is, number one, it should be light. Recall the concept of light. What is light? Yes, it is the removing of the noon sound or the entire letter noon. In the dual and the plural, we remove the entire letter noon. So just for a brief recollection, because we have not talked about light for a long time. So for a brief recollection, if we want to tell the Muslim chart, it will be Muslima, Muslimu, Muslimi, Muslima, Muslimai, Muslimai, Muslimu, Muslimi, Muslimi. And in the feminine chart, Muslimatu, Muslimata, Muslimati, Muslimata, Muslimatai, Muslimatai, Muslimatu, Muslimati, Muslimati. Okay, that's what light means. You should know this concept. Next, it can never have al. This is important, ma. Kitabullahi is not al-Kitabullahi. Yes, it's Allah has the word Allah has an al already. You know that. But Kitabullahi, no. That never happens. Al-kitabullahi will never happen. That's not mudaf ilay. Kitab is mudaf ilay. The kitab is mudaf, right? So kitab will be light. It's not kitabun. It can never be kitabun, and it can never be al-kitabu either. Correct? Next, mudaf ilay. So the two conditions for mudaf ilay is that it always has to be jar. This is why it cannot be kitabullah or kitabullahu or kitabullaha. It can never be that. It will always be kitabullahi because Allah, the word Allah in this is jar. Correct? Next, it will always come immediately after the mudaf. The mudaf ilay will always come immediately after mudaf. There won't be like two words and then mudaf ilay. That never happens. It should be mudaf and then mudaf ilay. Mudaf, mudaf ilay. That's how Arabic Idhaafah works. Okay. So again, the first rule for mudaf is it should be light. It can never have al. If a word satisfies these two, then there's a high chance that this is mudaf. But remember, it cannot be in mudaf unless the next word is mudaf ilay. These two are dependent upon each other. If you see a word that is fit to be a mudaf ilay, but there's no mudaf, that doesn't mean this word is mudaf ilay. This word cannot be mudaf ilay because for a mudaf ilay you need mudaf, and for a mudaf you need a mudaf ilay. So if you find two words that perfectly match both of these characteristics that they should match, then you have found your mudaf and mudaf ilay. And when you translate this, you will have to add an of in between. Okay, so kitabullahi, it matches both mudaf mudaf ilay, so I'll put book of Allah, or else kitab means book, Allah means the word Allah. The word Allah means Allah, right? So kitabullahi, book Allah. That doesn't make any sense. But if we add an of in the middle, book of Allah, now we understand that this is idhaafah. And why are we adding of? Because it's idhaafah. It fulfills the requirements of mudaf and mudaf ilay. Clear? Now let's do some practice. Alright, practice. Maryamu talibatun. First things. The word, oh, one more thing before I tell you, in English you saw that there was like apostrophe s and there was like possessive pronouns where the mudaf ilay seems to be coming first, right? Like Allah's book, the word Allah is mudaf ilay, right? But in Arabic it will only be in one form. The first word you see will have to be mudaf and the second word is mudaf ilay. The mudaf ilay will always come after, right? It can never come before mudaf. The mudaf ilay will always come after. So in Arabic the confusion has been solved. There will be only one order, which means mudaf and then mudaf ilay. That's it. It won't be mudaf ilay then mudaf. That's all. That all confusion which is there in English language does not exist in Arabic language. All you have to see is that there are two words in front of me. They are right after one another. Let's just see if the first word is mudaf and the second word is mudaf ilay or not. Okay, that's all. So this first word should be mudaf. That's how I can tell that this is idhaafah. So let me see. Does it match? Maryamu. Okay, Maryamu is light. Obviously it is no tanween and it has no al. So till now we are clear. Till now this is mudaf. This can be mudaf, but we are not sure until we look at the mudaf ilay. Talibatun. Okay, why is this not a mudaf ilay? I'm not going to tell you this is not mudaf ilay, you should know that. But why is this not mudaf ilay? This is not mudaf ilay because there's no jar. Mudaf ilay has to be jar. Oh, remember long ago when we learned about mudaf ilay, long ago when we learned about jar, the way we defined it is after of. And now you're coming to learn that after of is actually mudaf ilay. And mudaf ilay has to be jar because both mean after of. Yes, the word after of is jar only because it is mudaf ilay. Clear? The word after of is mudaf ilay, okay, and mudaf ilay is jar. So jar is the thing which the word after of has. Got it? That's clear? Good. So Maryamu talibatun, this is not a fragment. I mean, this is not the Idhaafah fragment. As far as we know, this cannot be the Idhaafah fragment. Even though the first one matches, the second one doesn't. Next, Ankara. Okay, first word should be mudaf. So let's check it. Ankara. No al? Yes. Check. Light? Yes. Check. So this can be a mudaf. This one I'll just highlight as that red, and the top one I'll just highlight as that red because that's not mudaf ilay. Okay, so this is just red. It's not mudaf mudaf ilayh. This one ankara. Okay, there is a possibility that this can be a mudaf. Why is there a possibility? Because has no al, and it is light. Now let's look at this. Al aswati. Now, ati, you know very well this is a feminine plural, and al aswati, you know atun, atin, atin, which means this is nasab or jar. If it is nasab or jar and there is a possibility that there is a jar, this is one of the ways that you can know that this is definitely a jar. You know how? Because the previous one perfectly matches the mudaf characteristics. If the previous one perfectly matches the mudaf characteristic and this one could be jar, then it is jar. Got it? Let me tell that again. The previous one matches the mudaf qualities, and for mudaf to have mudaf ilayh, it needs to be jar. This next word we see that there is a possibility that this could be jar too. Then we see that it is jar. If it could be jar, it is jar. Okay? If it could be jar, it is jar. That's the rule. If there is possibility that this could be jar and we have a perfectly good reason for it to be jar, which is that it's mudaf ilayh, then it can be, then it is jar. So al-aswati, over here we can confidently say that this is jar, in which case this will be mudaf and this will be mudaf ilayh. So this will be mudaf and this will be mudaf ilayh. Clear? We have classified this. Now let's move on. Qawma Nuhin. First things, Qawma, does it match mudaf? First of all, it has no al, yes. It is light, yes. So far so good. Nuhin, it is jar, yes. It's coming after the mudaf, right after, yes. So mudaf, mudaf ilayh. So how will we translate this? Again, we have to put the word of in between. So Qawm means nation and Nuh is a name. So Qawma Nuhin, nation of Nuh. Because if I just tell nation Nuh, that doesn't make sense. We have to add an of in between, right? So Qawma Nuhin, nation of Nuh. And why is that of in the middle? Because these two are mudaf mudaf ilayh, and they are in the fragment of Idhaafah. The fragment is called Idhaafah. Clear? So let's just classify them and move on to the next one. Next, Yawmiddin. Yawmiddin. First things, Yawmi. Yawmi. You do it yourself. Yawmi. Does it have, remember the two questions. This is supposed to be mudaf, right? Because it's coming before. This is the only thing that can be mudaf here. So is this mudaf or not? Does this have al? No. Is this light? Yes. So yes, it is mudaf. I mean, it can be mudaf, but we don't know for sure until we have the mudaf ilayh. Ad-dini. Ad-dini. There is a kasra, which means it's jar, and it doesn't matter if it has al. Okay, the only two conditions for mudaf ilayh is that it should be jar and it should come right after, and this fulfills that. Don't get confused in the conditions for mudaf and apply them on mudaf ilayh. Don't do that. This is a perfectly fine mudaf ilayh. Just because it has al does not mean it's not mudaf ilayh. Okay, the al is only for the mudaf. The mudaf cannot have an al, but the mudaf ilayh can have an al. Okay. So Yawmiddini, that is an Idhaafah, mudaf is Yawmi, and Ad-Dini is mudaf ilayh. And you should know the reasons why. Reasons are very important because you won't be making up sentences. The sentences and the fragments, the words will all be there in the Qur'an. You have to just apply and you have to just classify the words. That's all we're doing here. Now next one. Rabbil Alamina. Rabbil Alamina. Rabbi, the first one, is it mudaf mudaf ilayh? Yes, the first one is mudaf. Why is it mudaf? Because I mean it's a good candidate. It's not missing anything. There, of course, we won't know that it's mudaf until we look at the next word. But this one can be mudaf because it has no al and it is light. Next, al-alamina. Again, ina ending. This can be a nasab or jar, and we have a perfectly good reason why this should be mudaf ilayh. Right? We have a perfectly good reason. There's a mudaf before it, so there's a really high chance that this is a mudaf ilayh. So for a mudaf ilayh to be mudaf ilayh, it has to be jar. So we can say that this is jar. If it has a good reason to be jar, then it is jar. Okay? If there's a possibility, this is not invalidating. Just because we see ina, we don't tell okay it cannot be jar at all. No, it can be jar. So if it can be jar and there's a good reason for it to be jar, then it is jar. Got it? That's the rule. So Rabbi, that's mudaf, and Ina is mudaf ilayh because it's coming right after, and it is jar. Yes, it is jar. Now we will not say it can be nasab or jar. No, this cannot be nasab now. It is jar. It's locked. Next, Maliki Yawmi. This is interesting. Maliki Yawmi. Both of them has jar. Both of them are in jar. Okay, kasra kasra. Does that mean this can be mudaf? No. This is the problem which many students make, so pay attention. The mudaf has its own specific rules. The mudaf ilayh has their own specific rules. Don't apply the mudaf rules on the mudaf ilayh, and do not apply the mudaf ilayh rules on mudaf. Okay, keep those two separate. So first, Maliki. Yes, it's a good candidate for mudaf. There is no al and it is light. Yawmi. The only two rules, it has to come right after. It does come right after, and it is nasab. It is in jar. It's not nasab, it is jar. So this is mudaf ilayh. Yes. So Maliki is mudaf because it's coming before, and mudaf ilayh cannot come before. It has to come after. And Yawmi is the other one, mudaf ilayh. Alhamdulillahi. What's the problem here? Tell me. You should tell me. What's the problem with alhamdu? First, can this be a mudaf? Yeah, it's light. It can be a mudaf, right? Come on. It's not tanween. No, it cannot be. And why? Because it has an al. A mudaf can never ever have an al. So I don't even need to look at the next one. There is no mudaf, so this is just red. It's not. It's not. It simply cannot be. This one, it simply cannot be a mudaf ilay. Mudaf and mudaf ilay. It simply cannot be an idhaafah. Okay? So, alhamdulillah, that's not an idhaafah. That might be something else that I don't know about yet. Next, Rasulallahi. Okay, Rasula. Rasula. Is Rasula light? Yes. Is Rasula having al? No. Which means this is a good candidate for mudaf. Next, Allahi. Now the word Allah, we never say Allah, okay? We never say Allah is, no. The word Allah is jar, okay? We can't say Allah is jar, that's too demeaning. The word Allah is jar, that's how we tell it, okay? The word Allah is jar here, so this is mudaf, and the word Allah is mudaf ilayh. Never we say Allah is mudaf ilayh, we tell the word Allah is mudaf ilayh, okay? So Rasulullahi, this is. And by the way, what does this mean? I would think you know this much Arabic. Rasul means messenger, or yeah, it means messenger. You can call it prophet, but it still means messenger. And Allahi is, of course, Allah. You know who Allah is. So Rasulullahi, messenger of Allah. And the way we know the of has to come in the middle is that these both are mudaf and mudaf ilayh. These both are fulfilling the conditions of mudaf and mudaf ilayh. So that's how we know that in the middle we have to drop an of. So messenger of Allah. Similarly over here, Rabb means Lord. Okay, Rabb means Lord. Al-Alameen. Actually, you should have read this in your prayer today. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. I got this from there. So Rabbil Alameen, Lord of all worlds. Okay, Alameen means the entire universe, world. It has a lot more complicated meaning, but this is simplified. So Lord of all worlds, humans, mankind, jinn. Okay, that's Allah. Next over here, Maliki Yawmi. I'm just telling you the meaning so you can see that you're already able to do a little bit. You're not doing everything, and you don't need to do everything at this point. You're just doing a little bit, but you're able to do a little bit. You know when to add an off, when to not add an off, right? So you can do a little bit translation yourself right now. That's the whole point, right? To understand the Quran. So now here, Maliki Yawmi. Maliki Yawmi. Malik means owner. Yawmi, that is day. And if you remember your Surah Fatiha well, then you know that Maliki Yawmiddin, right? Maliki Yawmiddin. And that verse is the owner of the day of judgment, Yawmiddin. So you can see this is very nice. You can see Yawmiddin over here. Yawmiddin, Yawmi is going to be mudaf, but in Maliki Yawmi, Yawmi is mudaf ilayh. This shows that a word can be mudaf and mudaf ilayh in the same verse, and this actually happened in the Quran. Maliki Yawmiddin, Yawmi can be mudaf and Yawmi can be mudaf ilayh, and it fulfills the conditions for both, right? It perfectly fulfills the condition for both. So sometimes a word can be both mudaf and mudaf ilayh. and that's normal, that's fine, that happened in the Quran, as you can see. And that's where we'll end up today's session. We understood a lot today. We learned about fragments, we learned about mudaf mudaf ilayh, we learned the rules for mudaf mudaf ilayh, and today I think the lessons were a bit on a heavy side, but that's alright, that's normal. We need some heavy lessons now and then. And we had a lot of practice, and you can have even more practice. Just go to the Quran, pick out any page and try to see if you can figure out any mudaf mudaf ilayh. We are not focusing on the vocabulary. I don't need to learn all the meanings, but we will be focusing on where to put off and where to not put off, these basic stuff. Right now basic stuff, later you'll learn more advanced stuff. So these stuff we'll already know by now. So that's all for today. Any questions, comment below. I hope you like this channel. Subscribe and stay tuned for more. Thank you.